After my mother died, I learned to use the same schemes that the two-faced woman had used against my mother to trap my father. I watched him get pummeled by public opinion, watched him unable to speak up, watched his eyes widen as if he didn't recognize me, feeling both sorrow and exhilaration. He didn't know that without my mother, the female lead, his own halo as the male lead would eventually fade. We would all step into the bumpy, ordinary world. I had known since I was very young that my mother was the female lead, and my father was the male lead because they had words above their heads. I held our nanny, Aunt Zhang's, hand and flipped through every book, piecing it together. The words over my mother's had read female lead, and those over my father's read male lead. I asked Aunt Zhang what a male lead and female lead meant. Aunt Zhang smiled and told me they were like the prince and princess. She picked up Snow White and read me the complete story. From then on, I thought of them as, and they lived happily ever after. I thought this was a pretty good story, loving parents, a harmonious family. Apart from grandma occasionally urging for a second child, there was no happier family. But then, calamity struck without warning. When I was 5, things turned upside down at home. I saw another person with words on her head, a very beautiful woman. After Dad picked her up from the airport, she cried in his arms. Mom and I came back from kindergarten. As soon as we opened the door, we saw them holding each other. They were startled, and so were we. Dad started explaining, and the woman did too. But Mom's face grew darker and darker. Meanwhile, I was studying the 4 words on the woman's head. Vicious, poisonous, female. I didn't recognize the last character. My parents were busy, so I had to ask Aunt Zhang again. I finally looked up that character. Supporting. Vicious female supporting character. I asked Aunt Zhang what those words meant. She laughed like she was going crazy. "Oh my," she said. "How does our little Yaya know about vicious female supporting characters at such a young age?" She happily told it as a joke to Grandma, Dad, and Mom. Usually, this kind of funny story about me was a seasoning at the dinner table, making the whole family laugh together. But that day, only Grandma laughed. Dad looked displeased, Mom had a dark face, and the woman was about to cry. She put down her chopsticks and said fearfully, "Sister-in-law, I'm sorry. I'll leave now and never come back." She turned and ran out, and Dad hurried after her. Grandma couldn't smile anymore. Her face darkened. "Song Wanqing, is this how you teach your child?" Aunt Zhang quickly took me away. I felt like I had caused trouble. But why was Mom the one being scolded? I persisted in asking, "What does vicious female supporting character mean?" Aunt Zhang didn't know how to explain. She could only sigh deeply. In books, a vicious female supporting character is someone who breaks up the male and female leads. They usually pretend to be innocent and pitiful to attract sympathy, and then everyone helps them bully the female lead. But rest assured, the ending is always good. The vicious female supporting character will definitely die a miserable death. The male lead will definitely realize the female lead's goodness and eventually win her back. She said it with certainty, and I believed her.
But things didn't seem to develop as she said.
The one called Anxin, the foster aunt, was brought back. It was raining heavily outside, and she was soaking wet. She was wearing Dad's shirt on top and only a pair of shorts below, with 2 long, bare legs. Dad carried her back. She said pitifully, "Sister-in-law, I'm sorry. It's my brother who wouldn't let me leave because he's worried about me. I swear I'll leave as soon as I'm cured." That sounds reasonable, but my heart feels clogged. I wanted to say something, but I didn't know what to say. That night, I fell asleep, only to wake up again as my mother's tears wet my cheek. I didn't move at all. I heard my mother sobbing softly. Did I tell her not to stay here? If I had said that, I would admit it, but I didn't. Why are these words being forced onto me? Why does everyone assume I can't tolerate her? Yu Xinting, is that how you see me? I wanted to say no, but when I opened my mouth, it was as if I had lost my voice, unable to utter a single word. Only after I let go of the thought of persuading my mother did that terrifying feeling of being manipulated slowly fade. Later, when this happened several more times, I realized I couldn't do anything to change the plot. It seems we've all fallen into the vortex of the storyline. A drop of water struggling desperately to break free from the whirlpool, a bit overreaching, perhaps. But that was my mother, my gentle and kind mother, so pure and good. She would read me stories in a gentle voice, use iodine to disinfect my scraped knees with concern, wake up early to make me the breakfast I craved, and even get up in the middle of the night, fighting sleep, to tuck my blanket corners in. And when I was sick, she would hold me and rush to the doctor without a second thought. She was so good. She didn't deserve to be misunderstood or bullied. This tiny drop of water, really wanted to try what it felt like to swim against the current. Dad and Mom were fighting again because Anshin had fallen down the stairs. Mom hadn't touched her, and Anshin didn't say Mom pushed her. She just reddened her eyes and said timidly, "Brother, it's not sister-in-law's fault. I was just careless." Mom's face was full of shock. She said, "I didn't." Dad gritted his teeth. "Fine, you didn't," he said coldly, glancing at her, then carried Anshin to the hospital. I grabbed Dad. I opened my mouth wanting to say, "Mom didn't push Anshin at all. I saw it. She deliberately threw herself down." But I couldn't say it. I was robbed of my right to speak. In that moment, the frustration of being silenced ignited a small flame of anger inside me. I wanted to scream and yell, but I couldn't lose my temper. Aunt Zhang said that the more you're framed by a green tea bitch, the more you need to stay calm. I pleaded, "Dad, don't go. Can you call a doctor to come home?" But Dad's face darkened even more. "Song Wanqing, you're even using a child. Don't make me look down on you." Mom was trembling, biting her lip, her eyes red. "Yu Xinting, you should go to the hospital and get your head checked too." They parted ways again in discord. I couldn't understand why. Why was this happening? Why couldn't I make things clear? Why did they have to blame Mom again? In my small body, I carried a heavy secret, nearly crushing my spine, until a small incident happened at kindergarten. Only then did I realize that some things are truly hard to explain. People's prejudices are like invisible barriers, perfectly separating perception from truth. The new girl in kindergarten, Yibao, wanted a piece of meat from my lunch bowl. She could have just told me, but she insisted on grabbing it. And she didn't even grab it properly. Instead, she fell right on her bottom and started wailing. My meat, my meat. Yaya, don't take my meat. And don't push me either." Everyone was comforting her, and they looked at me with accusing eyes. I shouted, "You grabbed my meat. I didn't take yours." But Yibao blinked her eyes and pitifully put a piece of meat from her own bowl into mine. "Yaya, don't be mad. I'll give you this piece too." That piece had a tendon on it, and there were teeth marks. She had chewed it and spit it out. She was trying to disgust me. I didn't eat it, but Yibao's bowl fell. My teacher, who usually doted on me, yelled at me angrily. "Yaya, you can't be so rude." I froze, then I went crazy. I wasn't going to suffer like my mom. So I knocked over her bowl again, then my own bowl, and all the bowls of those who took her side. "If you won't let me eat properly, then nobody eats." That day, it blew up into a big deal. The kindergarten teacher called our parents. Mom came, and she chose to believe me. She demanded to see the surveillance footage, speaking firmly and justly. The surveillance footage clearly showed that Yibao snatched my meat. But then Yibao's parents came. How did I feel? Dad and Mom started arguing again because, Anshin, Yibao cried and threw herself into her father's arms. "Daddy, I thought my meat had fallen into Yaya's bowl, so I picked it up. I was just hungry and wanted to eat meat."
"Daddy, don't ignore me."
That day, the truth came out, but things got even worse. The kindergarten teacher said with an ugly look that I had a bad temper and knocked over others' bowls. Mom and Dad had a huge fight. She demanded to know why Anshin had a child and why Yibao called him Daddy. Anshin cried and made a scene, wanting to leave, then fainted again. The hospital found her heart condition had worsened. Grandma said Mom hadn't taught me well. Even the story of Kong Rong giving away the pear teaches selflessness, yet I was so petty over a piece of meat. Everyone went to the hospital to visit Anshin. Only Mom stayed with me. We stared at each other, both feeling very depressed. I deeply felt the isolation and helplessness Mom had gone through, unable to explain myself. I asked Mom, "Mom, is it because I was bad that Dad became Yibao's dad? What I really want to ask is, Mom, did I drag you down and make things worse?" Mom was stunned. She bent down, held my shoulders, and with a look of deep compassion, answered me solemnly, "No, it's Dad's fault. He shouldn't have been soft-hearted and deceived Yibao. He let Yibao think he was really her dad, and he shouldn't have comforted someone else's daughter while abandoning his own. You're not wrong. It's his fault. Let's not stay here anymore. Let's go home." She immediately packed our things and took me to Uncle's house. Uncle warmly welcomed us. He noticed the worry on Mom's face and said he would seek justice for her. Mom told him not to go, but he said he was her big brother and would never watch his beloved sister be bullied. He went to the hospital, and then he never came back. Mom and I stayed at Uncle's house for 3 days. During those 3 days, Mom took leave for me, so I didn't have to go to kindergarten. We kept each other company, watching the drifting clouds and the frosty dew. Enjoying the spring blossoms and the moonlight, this is a rare moment of relaxation in life. 3 days later, my uncle returned, looking haggard and hesitant. When he spoke, his words were heartbreaking. "Wanwan, can you make way for Anshin? She's sick." I stared at my uncle in shock, unable to utter a single word. My mother was also stunned. That day, she told me to go back to my room and be alone for a while. She and my uncle had a loud argument in the study. Soon after, she took me away from my uncle's house with a grim face. We wandered aimlessly on the streets. The city was vast, but there was no place we could call home. Passing by a flower shop, my mother bought a bouquet of pure white lilies. We went to Grandma's cemetery and offered the lilies to her. There, my mother wept uncontrollably, tears streaming down her face. She said, "Mom, I'm sorry. I should have listened to you back then." I had heard Aunt Zhang talk about my mother and father's love story, a mature and steady CEO and an innocent college girl. The mother wept uncontrollably, tears streaming down her face. She said, "I'm sorry, Mom. I should have listened to you back then." I had heard Aunt Zhang talk about Mom and Dad's love story, a mature, steady, domineering CEO and an innocent college girl. Two people from different worlds collided into a spark of love and eventually achieved a happy ending. She envied that, calling it a romantic fairy tale. However, fairy tales are all lies. Within just 6 years, love had been defeated by a third party. I wanted to say, "Mom, let's go. Let's get a divorce. We don't need Dad anymore." But I couldn't get the words out. It was as if a 1,000-pound weight was pressing down on my mouth, making it hard even to breathe. But then, Mom took the initiative and said, "Yaya, if I divorce your dad, who would you go with?" At that moment, I felt redeemed. The suffocating pressure finally disappeared. I cried out of anger and said, "I'll go with you, Mom." She held me tightly in her arms, radiating determination. She did indeed file for divorce from Dad. However, Dad didn't take it seriously. He said, "Stop making a scene. I need to find a heart donor for Anshin. I don't have time for this. Don't cause trouble at a time like this." Mom had no desire to talk to him anymore. She only dropped a single line. "Sign it and I'll leave. No one will bother you." She took me and left that house. But Grandma refused to let me go. "Yaya is a descendant of the Yu family. You can leave, but your granddaughter stays." Several bodyguards forcibly separated Mom and me. At that moment, I hated Grandma. I scratched, bit, and kicked. Struggling fiercely, Mom was terrified. "Yaya, be good. Don't hurt yourself. Never hurt yourself. Mom won't leave. Mom will never leave again."
Y realiza, no.
I can't be a burden to Mom. I stopped fussing.
Goodbye, Mom.
"I'll wait for you obediently to come back." I quickly returned to my room, lying by the window to watch her. She was crying. She wiped away her tears. She looked up at my window. I hurriedly ducked back, hiding behind the curtain, my heart pounding like a drum. When I peeked out again, Mom was gone. I unilaterally declared a break with Grandma and Dad. I ignored them, refused to be with them. In kindergarten, I kept to myself. In contrast, Ibao, with her sweet tongue, was very popular. She became the teacher's pet in no time. But I wasn't jealous. I thought I was special. I could see the male and female leads. Seeing the vicious female supporting character, she sees nothing. My world and hers are ultimately different. And love that must be earned through flattery, I don't care for it. At home, the only person I am willing to get close to is Aunt Zhang. She took on the role of my mother, telling me stories, comforting me, caring about my thoughts, and secretly tucking me in at night. When I took a nap, she would hold her phone and chuckle. When I woke up, I quietly hid behind her to see what she was looking at. "Cancel tomorrow's engagement banquet. I won't cause you any trouble." I didn't say break up. "You're not qualified to leave." By then, I had learned some characters and managed to guess the meaning. At that moment, I felt like I had found a treasure. How similar this was to the story of my father and mother. "Read it to me," I said. Aunt Zhang was startled. "Yaya, you're awake? Read it to me. I insisted stubbornly. Naturally, Aunt Zhang couldn't do that. She tried hard to persuade me, but I went on a hunger strike in protest. Aunt Zhang felt heartbroken. She whispered, "This is our secret. You can't tell anyone, okay?" I agreed. From then on, my bedtime reading material was, on the surface, The Girl Who Counts Stars and Drinks the Moon, but in reality, it was The Rise of a Sweet and Innocent Girl and CEO Fu's Sweet Wife. I listened to one story after another and found they all shared a similar core. The male lead was powerful and wealthy. He misunderstood the female lead and hurt her, only to have a sudden awakening afterward. Winning back the female lead, I seemed to see my mother's future in that. She and my father might end up entangled like this. But as her daughter, I felt no hope. All I saw was the despair of the present. A few days later, my mother came back. Her face was dark, her smile forced. Facing Grandma's sarcastic remarks, my mother numbly endured them in silence. Later, I found out that my father had gotten my mother fired from her job. Every time she found a new one, he would ruin it. To avoid hurting others, my mother had no choice but to obediently come back. And that divorce agreement had long been tossed into the wastebasket by my father. My mother was like a beast trapped in a cage. No one would respect such a beast. Seeing me, my mother hugged me tightly. "Yaya, are you okay?"
I'm fine.
"How are you, Mom?" "I'm fine too, Mom." "You're lying. You're clearly not doing well. I could smell it on you. You're filled with a sense of despair." I solemnly handed Mom a book about a runaway wife. It was one I'd found with great difficulty. I thought some of the methods in it might help Mom. Mom couldn't help but laugh when she saw it. Laughing, she started crying again.
Yaya, you're worried about Mom.
"I'm sorry for making you worry. I wanted to comfort her." "No, I just want you to be happy." However, the door opened. Dad came in. His eyes immediately landed on the book. "Song Wanqing, you're showing this kind of book to the child?" I gave it to Mom. I spread my arms to protect Mom. "You're not allowed to bully Mom." Mom said, "Don't you dare yell at the child." Dad looked at Mom, then at me, and closed the door with a cold expression. "He's so strange. We treated him like that, and he didn't even get angry." I think Dad isn't beyond saving either. We can't just reform Mom. We have to reform Dad too. I used my own pocket money to ask Aunt Zhang to buy many books. How to be a good husband, busy dad, good dad, 9 principles for being a good husband. I placed these books in the study. Waiting at the door, after Dad came in, I took his hand and led him to the study. He was a little flattered. I had been ignoring him all this time, let alone holding his hand. He softened completely, picked me up, and carried me to the study. When he saw the books, he couldn't help but smile and kissed my forehead. "Did you buy these, or did Mommy? Is Daddy not good enough?" My eyes reddened, and a flood of grievances welled up. Dad was at a loss, frantically wiping my tears. Then he apologized to me. "I'm sorry, Yaya. I'm sorry, it's Daddy's fault. Daddy shouldn't have neglected you and Mommy." He seriously started reading those books. He tried hard to learn to be a good father, and also attempted to explain to Mom. Yibao was born after Anxin was raped. She was in poor health and couldn't take care of Yibao, nor did she want to see her anymore. So she left her to the nanny's care. Yibao was pitiful and lacked a sense of security, which is why I pretended to be her father. Mom softened, but she still insisted on her own opinion. "You could have told me, instead of hiding it and letting me discover it myself. Yibao is pitiful, but that misfortune wasn't caused by me. Besides, you let Yaya see all this." Her heart was hurt. Dad fell silent. With a complicated look, he murmured and said, "It won't happen again. From now on, I won't hide anything from you." They were slowly getting better. It felt like the old days had returned. But extremes meet. Joy gives birth to sorrow. Not long after, Anxin came back from the hospital. Dad went to pick her up himself. One moment she was all smiles and laughter. The next second, her face changed the moment she saw Mom. "Who is Song Mingzi to you? Are you his sister? Let me go. I don't want to live under the same roof with a rapist sister." Mom was thunderstruck. She stood there frozen, at a loss. She had genuinely intended to welcome Anxin back, and had even decorated Anxin's room with extra warmth to make her feel comfortable. But now, the thin veil of pretense that had barely maintained the balance was torn down. Dad was a little angry, furrowing his brow, and for once, he defended Mom in a way he rarely did. Wanqing had no idea about any of this. Anshin cried helplessly. I want to leave here. I want to go abroad. I'm never coming back. As she struggled, she clutched her chest, her face pale, and collapsed. Dad panicked. He blurted out, Wanqing, please go out first. Mom left, her face ashen, stumbling and staggering like a beaten cur. Later, Aunt Zhang told me, emotions are like a multiple-choice question. The one abandoned must be unimportant. So that was it. Mom wasn't important to Dad. Then why did they get married? Why did they always say they had me out of love? It took a long time before I roughly figured out the truth of what had happened. Years ago, Anshin mistakenly entered a hotel room and was raped by Uncle, who was under the influence of drugs. Afterwards, she fled in heartbreak. But she unexpectedly got pregnant and, due to a heart condition, couldn't abort the child, so she was forced to give birth. That day, when she saw Uncle at the hospital, she realized that the person who had raped her back then was actually her mother's brother. Grandma was extremely heartbroken for an ex-ion. They gave her jewelry, a house, and money, telling her to try to see things in a positive light. The one who did wrong was someone else, not her. They urged her not to punish herself for someone else's mistake. Father was also very guilty. He rejected Mom's call and sent a text telling her not to come back for now, so as not to upset an ex-ion. Only I let out a cold laugh. Have you done a paternity test? At that moment, it was as if someone had pressed the pause button in the air. They stared at me in shock, and then their gazes gradually turned cold. They subconsciously ignored my words, and I once again couldn't speak. Although I was annoyed in my heart, it wasn't entirely without gain, because the story's obstruction actually confirmed one thing. Yibao was most likely not Uncle's child at all. Otherwise, the plot wouldn't have silenced me again. I went to the kindergarten and proactively showed friendliness to Yibao. Offered to braid her hair, but she was skeptical. I won't be fooled by you. Mom says you're a bad kid. I swallowed my anger and whispered, Dad said if I don't be good friends with you, he won't talk to me anymore. Yibao was overjoyed. Your dad doesn't want you anymore. From now on, he's my dad. She was so excited that she shouted it loudly, and many people heard. Got the evidence. I grabbed her hair in one handful and punched her in the face. What happened after that was chaotic. She was crying, and I was secretly stuffing the pulled-out hair into my pocket. In the end, the parents were called again.
Dad came.
Yibao threw herself into his arms, sobbing. Meanwhile, I stood there, staring at him with resentment. Dad was provoked. You Pinlon, you have disappointed me so much. He was probably too angry. He actually called me by my full name. I said coldly. She said my dad doesn't want me anymore. Do you not want me? Dad was speechless. He tried to reason with Yibao, but she just cried, saying how much it hurt, how awful she felt. Exactly like her mother, playing weak to win sympathy. Dad couldn't get anything out of them. The teacher told us to go home and solve it internally, since Yibao was in the wrong this time, and we were a family. They didn't want to interfere, but I refused to go home with Dad. Instead, I asked the teacher to call my uncle. I wanted to go to his place.
Soon my uncle arrived.
When he saw Yibao, he could barely walk, his eyes filled with excitement as if searching for similarities to himself and her. He was sick, actually volunteering for a cuckold's role. I reached out for him to hold me. Then, as he bent down to pick me up, I grabbed his hair without hesitation. Why are you helping that bad woman bully Mom? You're so mean. You're not my uncle. I held on tight, refusing to let go. My uncle screamed in pain but was too guilty to forcefully pry me off.
Until Dad slapped me.
You Pinlon, stop making a scene. My face stung, so I let go. I stared at him with burning eyes. At that moment, I wished he wasn't my father. If only my mother had a freer attitude toward love, if only she hadn't fallen for him, then I wouldn't be his daughter, and I wouldn't be dragged into all this mess. For the first time in his life, my father hit me. He regretted it instantly, his eyes full of pain, his lips trembling. Yaya, you can't do this. He tried to touch my head, but I pushed his arm away. You're not my father, I said coldly. Yaya, he replied weakly, as if I had hurt him deeply. How pathetic. He was the one who caused the deepest wounds, yet he played the victim. I followed my uncle back to his place. He tried to apologize, but I coldly said, You owe others, yet you used my mother as payment. You're just as bad as my father. He was speechless, staring at me as if I were a stranger. I went into the room and shut the door in his face. Then I called Grandma and asked her to send Aunt Zhang over. She immediately agreed, and I could hear her voice on the other end of the line. Hearing Yibao's voice, she said excitedly, "Can I live here? Can I live here from now on? Grandma, Dad, you are so kind." No wonder you agreed so readily. Afraid that going back would upset Yibao. What a kind family, sacrificing their own granddaughter to raise the adopted one. Indeed, birds of a feather flock together. After Aunt Zhang arrived, I asked Aunt Zhang to take the hair for a DNA test. She hesitated. "Yaya, this won't do." "Aunt Zhang, don't you suspect?" Aunt Zhang also suspected. She gritted her teeth and said, "Then I'll go check." She took the sample and quietly went to the testing center. However, on the day to get the results, the report confirmed a parent-child relationship. I was stunned.
How could this be?
What is going on? How could Yibao really be Uncle's child? Then why did the plot stop me? Aunt Zhang was also disappointed. She said helplessly, "Yaya, it seems fate is like this." There really is no way. Fate? I remembered the female lead label on Mom, the male lead label on Dad, the vicious supporting female role on an Xian, and those frustrating moments when I was muted. I don't believe in fate. Days passed in a daze. Before long, Dad came to pick me up. He asked if I could get along with Yibao from now on. Yibao, always Yibao. At that moment, I felt a strong connection with Mom. He was my father, so why did he have to cherish another little girl? And he instinctively put me in the role of the aggressive bully. He was Mom's husband after all. So why did he pity another woman and force Mom to bow her head to her?
What were Mom and I to him?
Were we just tools to show off his dominance, his authority, his unchallengeable will? I closed the door. "You're not my father." I knew those words were like a knife stabbing into his heart. His face was full of hurt. "You Pinlon." I ignored him. At that moment, it felt like a demon seed was sprouting in my heart. I desperately wanted to hurt him. Only by hurting him could I feel any relief. That evening, Aunt Zhang continued reading me the story of the CEO's little wife. I interrupted her.
Aunt Zhang.
I don't want to listen anymore. None of this can save me, nor can it save Mom. I changed my approach and started asking Aunt Zhang to read many other books. I listened to a wide variety. If I felt a book wasn't right, I'd switch to the next one. Aunt Zhang didn't tire of it. She felt sorry for me, living like a child without parents at such a young age, and was always indulgent with me. When I heard the book Jane Eyre, my eyes lit up. This woman, she's got something. Later, I also heard Pride and Prejudice. I immediately sat up straight. This works. Mom should read this. During the Chinese New Year, on a snowy day, Mom knocked on Uncle's door. She came to pick me up, and there was a man by her side. I saw a few words on that man's head. Devoted male supporting character. I was used to it by now. Every female lead has a second male lead who likes her. The man was named Fu Jingshen, with gentle brows and an elegant, refined appearance. He didn't look like Dad, with his deep-set features, and an aggressive sort of handsomeness. He bent down to ask me, very politely and respectfully, "Yaya, how about spending this New Year with Uncle?" I wanted to agree, but Mom refused. "Zhengshun, no need. Thank you for seeing me here." Uncle walked out, his face full of guilt. He asked Mom to stay for the New Year. Mom said coldly, "No. I bought a house myself. From now on, Yaya will live with me." Uncle was embarrassed. "Sorry, Wanwan." Mom turned and left. She walked away with a proud bearing. Uncle wanted to call her, but couldn't open his mouth, just staring dumbly as we left. I said to Mom, "Actually, I think Uncle is a little better than Dad. Uncle knows Yibao is his daughter, and has always wanted to bring Yibao back." Between Mom and Anshin, he chose Anshin. Uncle acted like a husband and a father, even though he was very bad to us. Mom paused. She hugged me tight, probably realizing that this is what a normal husband and father should do, trust and protect his wife and daughter. Compared to Dad and Uncle, he's worse, more despicable, because he always makes us suffer to fulfill his own sense of loyalty. Fu Jingshin walked me and Mom back to the house, but at the door we ran into Dad and Anshin. Mother's face changed, and so did Father's. Anshin said in a low voice, "Sister-in-law, what's going on? Did Mr. Fu ever pursue you before? Isn't this a bit inappropriate?"
She sure knows how to stir things up.
Mother couldn't scold me, but I shot back, You and Dad are just siblings in feeling, so what's the problem with Uncle Fu and Mom having something? Your mind is full of filth. Anshin's mouth fell open, her face a mask of shock. Soon, tears began to fall one by one, making her look so pitiful. Sister-in-law, I spent a long time preparing myself today, before deciding to let go of the past and get along with you. But you used a child to scold me. That's just too much. Sorry, I can't accept you. She ran off, stumbling as she went. I felt sorry for her, but father didn't chase after her. Instead, he said coldly to Uncle Fu, I have something to discuss with my wife. Please leave now. Uncle Fu didn't look at him. Instead, he looked at Mother. Seeing Mother nod, he said softly, call me anytime if anything comes up. As he was about to leave, I whispered to him, Uncle Fu, can I go with you? I don't like Dad. I want to be with you. Fu Zhengshan smiled, a very happy smile. Dad's face was dark as coal, gritting his teeth but helpless. When Uncle Fu picked me up, I said to Dad seriously, Anshin was wrong just now. Mom didn't teach me what to say. I truly detest both Anshin and you. You're not a good father, nor a good husband, but you are Anshin's good brother. Fu Zhengshan drew in a sharp breath, probably discovering for the first time how sharp-tongued I was. As for Dad, he looked as if struck by lightning, staring at me blankly, his eyes full of pity. But Mom felt no pity for him at all. She opened the door and said calmly, if you have anything to say it quickly. It's the new year. I don't want to argue with you. Fu Zhengshan and I waited outside. He built a snowman with me, set off fireworks, held my hand and left footprints in the snow. He would be a good father. But I've listened to so many stories that the second male lead rarely gets the girl. Besides, I don't want Mom to drift from one man to another, letting men control her fate. It's tragic. She should live her life like a true heroine in a book, thoughtful, capable, and interesting. I asked Fu Zhengshan, what do you like about my mother?
Fu Zhengshan laughed.
Your mother is wonderful. She's the best girl I've ever met. If she ever divorces, would it be okay if I pursue her? I was about to answer when his phone rang. He glanced at it, his face darkening noticeably. My wariness kicked in. Many second male leads have messy romantic entanglements, and I didn't know if Fu Zhengshan was any different. He hung up the phone. He fell silent, and I stayed quiet too, not wanting to speak. It seemed Fu Zhengshan was no exception. Soon, my father stormed downstairs, glanced at me, and said coldly, You Pinlon, come home with me. My mother followed, closely, shielding me. Yaya is with me. Please leave. The atmosphere between them was tense and hostile. My father's face was pale and grim. Before, I went easy for your sake. Now, you'll face the consequences. My mother snapped back. Yuzhenting, don't play dirty tricks. Don't make me lose respect for you. Dad got into the car with a cold face, driving fast and fiercely, leaving a trail of dust. I finally knew what a lawless outlaw looked like. I asked Mom, what do you like about Dad? Mom couldn't answer. After a long while, she said, it's all in the past. I lived with Mom, and we both desperately longed for a peaceful life. We thought it over carefully. This peaceful life actually meant a life without Dad, Grandma, Anshin, and even Uncle. She transferred me to another kindergarten. It wasn't as good as the old one, but it was close to home, and the teachers were very gentle. She worked very hard. She opened a design studio. She was talented and began to make a name in the industry. But her mood was not exactly cheerful because Uncle's company was being targeted. Uncle couldn't hold on anymore, so he came to find Mom. He leaned against the car, puffing on a cigarette. His hair was messy, and his expression was disheartened and dejected. He must have been busy and overwhelmed these days. When he saw Mom, his eyes lit up, but then quickly dimmed. The company was being targeted by Yuzhenting, and they had lost several deals. There are some of your shares in it. Let's discuss what to do. What are you planning to do? Uncle didn't speak, as if making up his mind. Just apologized to Yuzhenting. A child can't be without a father, right? Mom was stunned. Her tears welled up in her eyes, but she forced them back. She reached out and slapped Uncle across the face. Song Mingze, you disgust me. The protagonist of this angsty novel can't even curse properly. I carried a basin of water, shouted Mom, move aside, and poured it down from upstairs. The water drenched Uncle's head. His eyes darkened, and he glared at me fiercely. You Pinlon, do you have any manners? You're an outsider. You have no say.
Come down here.
Last time you bullied Ibao, I said nothing. This time, see if I don't teach you a lesson. He was about to rush upstairs. Mom reached out to stop him. Song Mingza, don't you dare. Do you think I don't know your plan? You've been secretly transferring assets, trying to kick me out of the company. When that didn't work, you had someone quietly buy the shares in my hands. Are you trying to give what I have to an ex-Ion as a betrothal gift? I fell silent. So many things had happened behind my back. How much pressure Mom had been under, and she never said a word. Uncle's face was ashen, and shame flickered across his face. It seemed he knew what he had done was wrong. He said coldly, "We owe an ex-Ion this. I ruined her life. You caused her heart condition to flare up and left her hospitalized long-term. It's not just the shares in your hands. I'll also give her a portion of the shares I hold. I didn't want to tell you before. I was afraid of hurting you, but since you already know, there's no point hiding anymore. Song Wanqing, we owe an ex-Ion this. We have to compensate her. Are you crazy? This is the only property Dad left us. It was earned through the hard work of Mom and Dad. And I don't owe an ex-Ion anything. I don't owe her anything." Mom was furious. She rarely lost her temper, but this time she was completely hysterical. Uncle had crossed her bottom line. He sneered. "You just refuse to repent, don't you? Dare to say it wasn't you who forced an ex-Ion to go abroad? Wasn't it you who caused her to fall down the stairs, triggering her heart condition? Wasn't it you who instructed Yaya to bully Ibao, trying to drive her out of the Yu family? And that car accident last time, wasn't that you're doing too?" Mom's tears finally fell. She pounded on Uncle's chest, venting her anger. "Song Mingza, are you an idiot? Don't you know what kind of person I am? Yu Jinting suspects me. Even you suspect me? You're my brother. Why do you believe another woman over your own sister? Just because she slept with you?" With a sharp slap, Song Mingza struck Mom across the face. The whole world fell silent. Song Mingza said coldly, "Don't you dare insult an ex-Ion. Song Wanqing, you and your daughter are both ill-mannered." Mom stared at him blankly. Even her tears stopped flowing. She covered her face, staring at Song Mingza in disbelief, as if looking at a stranger. My heart ached. I screamed and rushed downstairs. Kicking and punching Song Mingza, I shouted, "Don't you dare bully my mother. No one is allowed to bully my mother." He shoved me to the ground and my mother quickly grabbed me, but was hit by a strong force, falling to the ground with me. Her arms shielded my head, but her own head hit the floor. "Song Wanqing, I'll give you one last chance. Sell me the shares. I'll give them to an ex-Ion, and Yu Jinting will naturally back off. That way you'll still get some money. Also, go back to the Yu family. Apologize to an ex-Ion. Stop targeting her. I will marry an ex-Ion, and she won't have to bow to your wishes anymore. This is best for everyone." He didn't even glance at us again. Turned, got into the car, and drove off quickly. I scrambled up and used all my strength to help Mom, but my hand touched blood. I froze. Mom said, "Yaya, be good. Mom's fine." She struggled to get up, but collapsed back to the ground and fainted. That day was probably the darkest day of my life.
He called Fu Zengxian, sobbing.
He rushed over quickly, picked Mom up, and took her to the hospital. By the time everything was settled, I realized my ankle was swollen, so swollen I couldn't walk anymore, but at the time, I hadn't felt a thing. Fu Zengxian held me tightly, tears streaming down his face. "Yaya, you've suffered. Next time you get hurt, you must tell an adult right away. Don't bear it alone." I wanted to cry, but not a single tear came. I kept thinking, was I wrong? Was I wrong? Why, when I only wanted to help Mom, did everything just get worse? Why was I so sure there'd be a good ending, yet the process was so painful? I couldn't save Mom, and the book couldn't save us either. It seemed the protagonist of a tragic romance novel could never escape the plot's control. I whispered, "Uncle Fu, I wish you were my dad." A sneer cut through the air. I looked up and saw a little boy smirking coldly. "Being a dad doesn't make him that great," he said. The boy looked about 10, holding an insulated lunchbox. He leaned against the doorframe, his gaze icy as he stared at Fu Zengxian. Fu Zengxian's expression changed. "Why are you here? It's none of your business." "Fu Huai, don't be rude. I have a mother but no father to teach me. Indeed, I am not as polite as others." The little boy glared at me hatefully, a look that felt like he thought I had stolen his father. I wondered if my gaze at Ibao had been like that back then. In that moment, I felt how meaningless it all was. The boy was clearly much older than me, with the surname Fu, and he hated me so much. Following the trope of CEO novels, it was highly likely that Uncle Fu had accidentally fathered a child in his youth, and now that child had come looking for him. And Fu Zhengxin was still courting my mother. Given the nature of angsty novels, the other party probably wouldn't take revenge on Fu Zhengxin, but would instead take it out on my mother. How unlucky. From now on, I can never trust people so easily again. This world is probably a huge trap, and if you're not careful, you'll fall into a pit. I said coldly, Uncle Fu, thank you, but please don't contact us anymore. I don't want anyone to cause trouble for my mother. My mother is innocent. No one is allowed to hurt her. Fu Zhengxin looked a bit embarrassed. He sighed. This matter is a bit complicated. You guys rest well. I'll come back when I'm free and take care of things. He left with the little boy, who was reluctant, but still followed his pace. That feeling was familiar to me. Wanting to get close but afraid of losing face, unwilling to refuse but awkwardly reluctant to leave. He must be desperate for familial love. I contacted Aunt Zhang and asked her to come quietly to handle the hospital transfer for Mom. Aunt Zhang did come, and she held me in her arms. She cried so much from heartache, and when she saw Mom, her tears flowed even harder. They're just not human. How could they bully your mom like this? Yeah, they really aren't human. How could they bully their own wife and sister like this, just to fulfill their sense of manliness? By trampling on someone's dignity to build up their own male pride, this is a truly despicable act. I am ashamed that I once called those two men dad and uncle. Aunt Zhang quickly helped Mom with a hospital transfer. I really wanted to tell Mom about Fu Zhengxin, but the moment I opened my mouth, I couldn't speak. I sneered and looked at the sky outside the window. This damn heaven is probably a coward, always picking on women to bully, truly spineless. After Mom woke up, she became much quieter. Aunt Zhang took leave to take care of Mom. She often read Pride and Prejudice to me in front of Mom. It might have been a hint. Mom listened quietly, her gaze growing increasingly resolute. Women often fantasize about love too unrealistically. One can easily invite suffering just because of weakness or indecision. Love is the dawn after abandoning pride and prejudice. I could feel the strength slowly growing within her in that tranquility, and hope welled up in my heart. Maybe Mom could break free from the plot. Maybe we could win. On the day of discharge, Aunt Zhang cheerfully handled the procedures for us. However, when we were hailing a taxi at the entrance, a car stopped in front of Mom. The car window rolled down, revealing Yu Jinting's cold face. He said coldly, "Get in." Mom ignored him and moved to another spot. Yu Jinting said nothing more. He drove off, but soon Aunt Zhang's phone rang. She was so stunned and flustered, she almost dropped it. Yu Jinting's voice came through clearly. "You're fired." Mom took the phone. "Yu Jinting, do you insist on me coming back?" "Come back or not, it's up to you." "Fine, I'll come back. I'll apologize to you, and to Anxin. Then we'll get a divorce. Are you satisfied?" "Humph. Since you're so open-minded, then kneel and apologize." The call ended. Aunt Zhang was on the verge of tears. "Wanqing, don't go back. That place isn't fit for a human to live in."
I'm quitting anyway.
As a top-tier nanny like me, others will be fighting over me. But Mom and I knew that wasn't true. Top-tier nannies were scarce, but the families who could afford them were all in the same circle. Offending Yu Jinting over a nanny wasn't worth it to them. Mom hugged Aunt Zhang. "Sis, come back with me. Without you, Yaya will get bullied. I don't trust anyone but you. Don't worry about me. Just take care of Yaya. You'll always be my sister." Aunt Zhang cried. Mom cried too. I cried as well. We took a taxi. We returned to the old house with a sense of impending doom. But when we got home, the house was empty. Yu Jinting had taken Grandma, Anxin, and Ibao to an auction. That night's news carried a story about him spending 100 million on a rare gemstone necklace. The necklace was around Anxin's neck, and she smiled brilliantly, like a dazzling, opulent flower. Ibao was hailed as the most beautiful little heiress. Her big, innocent eyes won her a legion of fans. Everyone praised Yu Jinting, calling him the world's best brother. That's quite fitting. After all, he would never earn the titles of world's best husband or world's best father in this life. They returned home in a lively manner. Even the servants seemed to come alive. Mom and I stayed quietly in our room, but Anshin had no intention of letting us off. She knocked on the door. Sister-in-law, come out. I brought you a gift. This necklace was specially bought for you. Do you like it? Mom opened the door. Anshin turned her back to Yu Jinting and the others, a malicious smile on her face. In a voice as soft as a mosquito's, she said, 3 million? What a bargain for a bitch like you. But your husband bought me 100 million won, so I'm not losing out no matter how you look at it. Put it on now. Otherwise, he'll get angry again and say you bullied me. Mom's face turned pale. Her eyes burned with rage, but she couldn't vent it. After all, Anshin was telling the truth. If she dared to refuse, Yu Jinting would dare to throw a fit. He was a brainless pig. I fell to my knees with a thud and wailed. Please don't bully my mom anymore. My mom is not a bitch. Please don't curse her under your breath. If you want to curse, curse me loudly. Anshin panicked slightly, her face ashen and teeth gritted. Yu Jinting rushed over. He yanked me up and glared fiercely at Mom. How can you be so vile, teaching her to tell such lies? Framing others? Mother sneered. Yes, I'm so despicable. But aren't you also cheap, begging me to come back? Song Wanqing, do you think I can't do anything to you? Don't push me too far. Regret it? Then divorce me. After divorcing me, you can marry your precious sister. Yu Jinting's face turned livid as he raised his hand. I rushed out like a calf and bumped into him. He staggered back a few steps and coldly ordered, take the young lady out and confine her to her room. The servants hesitated for a moment, then still picked me up. Mom wanted to protect me, but Yu Jinting grabbed her wrist tightly. I wanted to cry and struggle, but soon I thought of the consequences the last time I made a scene. I held back my tears. I hugged the servant's neck and said to Mom, Mom, don't worry. I'll be good and obedient. I'll take care of myself. You take care of yourself too. Come on, I mouthed softly. Mom was crying. Yu Jinting held her very, very tightly, so he didn't see an Xion's viper-like gaze, glaring at Mom with hatred. I thought to myself, you idiot Yu Jinting, why don't you turn around and look? One look and you'd know how blind you are. But he didn't. All his strength was focused on Mom. He clearly looked like he loved her, so why did he have to hurt her? Mom and I were separated. I couldn't see her, and she couldn't see me. Only Aunt Zhang begged Grandma to take care of me, but even she had no news of Mom. It was as if Mom was imprisoned, vanished from the outside world. I went back to my old kindergarten. No one welcomed me. The teachers and classmates didn't like me, and I didn't need their liking. Song Mingzi sometimes came to pick up Yibao, and Yibao would show off how favored she was. But I didn't envy her. I thought she was stupid. When she was little, she fought for and flaunted her father's love. When she grows up, she'll probably flaunt another man's love. Someone like that probably sees herself as a pet. I never saw myself as human, but I do see myself as a person. If someone loves me, of course I'm happy. If no one does, that's okay. I'll love myself. But she probably will never learn to do that. I always feel I can see her future fate, maybe another her mother, or another my mother. Either way, it ends in tragedy. Song Mingzi would sometimes look at me like he wanted to say something, but before he could get close, I'd tell him to get lost. Over time, he treated me like a stranger, and I treated him the same. 3 months passed like this. One day during class, I suddenly felt a panic in my heart, a panic so strong that I felt something big was about to happen. I rushed to the door recklessly, but the teacher caught me and held me tight. With tear-filled eyes, I begged her, Teacher, I want to go home. Call Yu Jinting. I want to go home. I want my mom. Yaya, are you feeling unwell? Tell the teacher, I'll help you. I need to go home. Something might have happened to my mom. Teacher, please call my dad. Saying the word dad gave me a deep sense of shame for betraying Mom, but for her sake, I could endure it. The teacher hesitated for a moment, then made the call. However, no one answered. She called again and again, but the call was always hung up. Not daring to act on her own, she had to take me to the infirmary. I pretended to be well-behaved and, while she was talking to the doctor, called Aunt Zhang. Aunt Zhang came quickly, and Fu Zhengshen came with her. Fu Zhengshen took me to a hospital. Mom lay on the hospital bed, her head wrapped in gauze, her body covered in bandages, unconscious. Fu Zhengshen told Aunt Zhang to take good care of me, and then he started fighting with Dad. You scumbag, you beast. How could you do this to Wan Qing? Yu Shinting didn't hesitate to fight back. My wife is none of your business. The two big shots, famous in the business world, were brawling in the hospital, exposing each other's secrets. That's when I found out that someone had kidnapped Wan Qing and Mom, forcing Yu Shinting to make a choice.
Yu Shinting chose en ça.
Mom was pushed into the sea, and an ex-end went missing. In Yu Shinting's eyes, choosing to stay by Mom's side and sending others to look for an ex-in was already the best he could do. And Fu Zhengxin was no saint either. When he was 15 or 16, he slept with the girl next door. She left the country after sleeping with him and secretly gave birth to a child abroad. She had planned to quietly raise the child, but unfortunately, she got cancer. With no other choice, she had to contact Fu Zhengxin and ask him to take care of the child. That child was Fu Huai. Yu Shinting confronted Fu Zhengxin, asking how he dared to pursue Mom when he already had a child that old. I told them to get out and fight. They were so noisy. They were all so disgusting. None of them deserved to appear before Mom. They finally quieted down. For many days after, I stayed by Mom's side day and night, like a lion, not allowing any of them near her. Yu Shinting tried to lock me up again. I grabbed a fruit knife and slashed it across my wrist. If you're not afraid of me dying, then lock me up. He looked hurt, his eyes red. Yaya, go away. He said, I'm sorry. I turned my back, feeling a wave of nausea that gave me goosebumps. Later, they stopped coming. Mom woke up and saw me. She smiled. My poor Yaya, you've been through so much. I said, it's nothing. It's been hard on you, Mom. If not for this leverage holding me back, Mom probably wouldn't have endured this humiliation. The tragic heroine can't escape the plot. Would Mom be able to break free if I died? I sometimes lose myself in this thought. When Mom could finally move, she loved to ruffle my hair and kiss my cheeks. She praised me over and over. Mommy's little Yaya is so amazing. How can there be such a brave little girl? When you grow up, you'll surely be brave and strong. Oh, little Yaya is so talented. You can recognize such difficult words. Your learning ability is incredible. You'll definitely be brilliant when you're older. So capable. Wow, little Yaya can take care of herself now. Your hands-on skills are great. Seeing you so awesome makes Mommy really happy. The gloom in my heart was greatly dispelled, even replaced by a secret pride. I'm so amazing. I can always overcome this damn plot. Mom just needs to wait for me to grow up, to grow a little older. She urged me to go back to kindergarten. Yaya must learn skills. Only by growing up can she leave home, go to faraway places, and realize her dreams. I went. Then I regretted going. That day, I was restless. During the second class, I told the teacher I needed to return to the hospital. The teacher looked at me deeply. This time, she didn't hesitate. She called Yu Shinting's number, but it still didn't go through. She took leave and hailed a taxi to take me to the hospital. Then, we saw a crowd gathered downstairs. Mom was sitting by the window, which had already been shattered. Behind her, I could see moving shadows and Yu Shinting's panicked face. He was shouting something in terror. Mom didn't utter a single word in response. She spotted me in the crowd and was momentarily startled, but quickly she smiled. Looking at me, she mouthed something. Then, without a moment's hesitation, she jumped down. With a loud crash, the teacher covered my eyes. My mind went blank, a blinding white. For a long time, I couldn't speak. I had no reaction to anyone's words. I stared blankly, only recognizing Aunt Zhang. Yu Shinting tried to talk to me, but Aunt Zhang pushed him away. Mister, if you truly care about Yaya, stop disturbing her. If I hadn't failed to get custody of Yaya, I would never let you see her again. At that moment, she seemed like the true master of this house, and Yu Shinting couldn't utter a word. His eyes red, he stumbled away. He looked somewhat pitiful, but somehow, I felt in my heart that he was despicable, even a bit disgusting. I asked Aunt Zhang, who is that man? She coldly replied, a stranger. I said, oh. Aunt Zhang took care of my meals, sleep, reading, and play. We never stepped outside, but the house was always in chaos. Every day, all kinds of quarrels filtered in. They seemed to be targeting a woman. That woman came every day with her child, begging for the man named Yu Shinting to let her off. She said she knew she was wrong, and begged him, for the sake of their past relationship, to give her and her daughter a way out. Yu Jinting, however, always ruthlessly yelled that they would have to pay the price. I curiously asked Aunt Zhang what was going on, but she would just curl her lip and say disdainfully, "A scumbag and a bitch." They deserve their karma. Only when the child dies do they remember to breastfeed. Only when snot runs into the mouth do they think to wipe it. A bunch of despicable people. Oh, so they're the bad guys? Then it's none of my business. One day, when no one was around, Aunt Zhang took me downstairs for a walk. As soon as we stepped outside, a woman suddenly rushed out from a quiet corner and knelt in front of me. She didn't just kneel herself, but also pulled the little girl beside her down to kneel. "Yaya, we were wrong. Please, ask your father to let me and Ibao go. I'll go abroad. And I'll never bother your life again. Please go and plead for me." Aunt Zhang cried out in alarm, shielding me, telling them to get lost. Curiously, I poked my head out from behind her. "Wendao, who are you?" That woman's pitiful face revealed a hint of malice and glee, which she desperately tried to suppress, making her look particularly strange. "Have you really lost your memory?" I could sense the excitement and mockery hidden in her, and I found it utterly boring. I didn't want to talk to someone who couldn't understand a word and was gloating. I obediently followed Aunt Zhang away. That woman tried to lunge at me, but the bodyguards rushed out and pinned her to the ground. Yu Xinting hurriedly got out of the car from a distance and ran toward me. "Yaya, are you okay?" I lay on Aunt Zhang's shoulder, not looking at him. "Auntie," I said, "I'm sleepy. I want to go home. It's too noisy here." Yu Xinting stopped and turned to look at an Xian, saying coldly, "Shut her up." An Xian's jaw was instantly dislocated. Terrified, she was crying profusely, and even Yibao's mouth was stuffed with a cloth ball. She couldn't make a sound. How boring. I closed my eyes and soon fell asleep. Later, Anshin never appeared in front of me again. It was as if she had vanished from the world. That woman called Grandma was always hanging around me, every time looking at me with a pitying gaze. She kept telling me to eat more and drink more. She was so annoying. But Aunt Zhang seemed to be under her control, her face extremely grim, yet she didn't dare to talk back to that woman. I had to handle it myself. To make her understand how annoying she was, I wouldn't touch a single bite of the food she mentioned. Even if I had already picked up a dish with my chopsticks, I would still put it back after she spoke. After a few times, she realized I was targeting her. With tears streaming, she said, "Yaya, are you blaming Grandma? Grandma really didn't know back then. Grandma didn't know about your mother." "Old madam, please stop." The doctor had said that Yaya's current condition wasn't suitable for hearing these things. Aunt Zhang quickly interrupted her. The old lady shut her mouth and wept silently. But I felt nothing at all. I just found her so annoying. Couldn't she go back to her own room and cry quietly? Was she crying expecting me to sympathize with her and comfort her? Sorry, but I don't like consoling others. Not to mention an inexplicable old lady. Before long, the old lady was sent back. It was said that on the day she left, she argued with Yu Jinting and said to him, "Yaya is already ruined. For the future of the Yu family, you should have another child. I don't care what method you use, just come up with another child." Yu Jinting looked at her coldly and said ruthlessly, "Mom, you're old now. You don't need to worry about these things. If you hadn't brought in an adopted daughter, none of this tragedy would have happened today. Wanqing also wouldn't. Shut up. Don't mention that woman's name again. She's dead, dead is dead. A woman with no luck like that was destined never to be the Yu family's daughter-in-law. Send the old lady to the countryside. Don't ever come back again. Yu Xinting, I am your mother. Mom, you should go now." The old lady was dragged out by others, her face full of shock and disbelief. I lay on the windowsill watching her struggle like a little chick, finding it quite amusing. But who is Wanqing? I turned around and asked Aunt Zhang. Aunt Zhang was terrified. "Yaya, don't move around. Get down from the window." Her voice was trembling. I found it strange, but obediently climbed down. She hugged me tightly, as if holding a precious treasure she had regained. The next day, all the windows in the villa were enclosed with iron bars, like a prison. I was unhappy. That day, I felt listless and went to sleep early. But in the middle of the night, I was awakened by a muffled sob. I quietly walked out and saw Yu Jinting crying at the study door. He was holding a notebook in his hands, sobbing bitterly.
Wanqing, I'm sorry.
"I never meant to hurt you. I thought Anshin was violated because of me. I just wanted to make it up to her." I never meant to owe you." He cried until he was tired and fell into a deep sleep. I quietly walked in. I saw he was holding a notebook. I pulled it out and flipped through it page by page. It was a woman's love diary. I skimmed a few pages. I found it quite boring. Romantic love might be the most precious thing to those involved, but as a reader, I only wanted to see the juiciest, most dramatic parts. I flipped to the back and finished reading about the short and tragic life of the woman named Wanqing. She was misunderstood, framed, and bullied. At first, she wanted to struggle and resist. She wanted to seek justice, but slowly she realized she was like a beast trapped in a glass container. No matter which direction she tried to break out, she ended up battered and bruised. She sought help from love, but love left her covered in wounds. She sought shelter from family, but her own brother pushed her away. She wanted a career. She worked diligently at her friend's company, but in the end, her husband almost caused her friend's company to go bankrupt. She wanted to be independent, using her last savings to open a design studio, but was pursued and obstructed. It seemed she was about to win a bid, but in the end she was always a runner-up. She found herself with no way out, as if only by bowing to her husband could she live without dignity. But as a person, how could she give up her dignity? The most terrifying thing was that she seemed to have discovered a secret hidden in her daughter. What the secret was, she did not say. What puzzled me was that her daughter was called Yaya, exactly the same name as mine. After reading the diary, I placed it on the table, then lowered my head and saw it again in the open drawer. I saw a beautifully bound paper report. I opened it and glanced at it, but the report was incomprehensible, with only a few names I could recognize. It was a paternity test report concerning a man named Song Mingze and a little girl named Yibao. The result of the test did not support a biological parent-child relationship between Sample 1 and Sample 2. What does that mean? I was sleepy and lay down on the sofa, falling asleep. The next morning, I was woken up by a huge roar. I opened my eyes in confusion and saw a man angrily slapping Yu Jinjin's face with the paper report. Yu Jinjin, how did the test results end up with you? Why do you have such a paternity test report? Why did you lie to me? Yu Jinjin woke up and raised his hand to brush off the man's slapping, saying coldly, Song Mingze, get out. Don't go crazy here. Song Mingze let out an angry, cold laugh. You beast, you made me think Yibao was my own flesh and blood. You harmed me, harmed my sister. I won't let you off easily. He turned and left. Yu Jinting sobered up for a moment. He began to explain, at that time I was trying to avoid hurting Anxin. I would rather Anxin think it was you than many others, so you made me a cuckold. Do you know that because of that slut, I hurt Wanqing, hurt my own sister? Song Mingze roared, tears streaming down his face. Yu Jinting trembled all over, clenching his fists in hatred. I'm sorry. I was wrong. Yu Jinting, you will pay for this. While my sister was alive, I couldn't protect her. Now, even if I have to fight you to the bloody end, I will seek justice for her. He strode away. Yu Jinting sat down dejectedly in the chair, locked the diary in the drawer, and quickly left as well. Neither of them noticed me lying quietly on the sofa. I opened the door and walked out, found Aunt Zhang, and told her what had happened. Aunt Zhang was silent for a moment, then went out to make a phone call. Soon, she was arguing excitedly with the other party. From her fragmented words, I understood that Aunt Zhang had once had a paternity test report. But the test report was taken away by Yu Jinting in advance, and he gave Aunt Zhang a fake one instead. His purpose was to protect a woman named an Xian. When an Xian was young, she tried to drug Yu Jinting, but he kicked her out. Then she was assaulted. She came back pitifully saying that it was all Yu Jinting's fault. Out of guilt, Yu Jinting sent her abroad and kept helping her secretly. He compensated her in various ways. In fact, that day she did sleep with Song Mingze, but she didn't get pregnant by him. The child was born from promiscuity abroad, and she conveniently framed Song Mingze. And Yu Jinting thought her experience that day was tragic. He didn't want her to feel dirty for having slept with many men, so he tampered with the test results, making her believe she had only been assaulted by Song Mingze. He tried hard to defend Anxin's innocence, but he didn't know how wild Anxin was outside. It was a bit ridiculous. When Aunt Zhang came back, she was so angry that her head ached. She said, Yaya, if only a stranger could win custody of you, I would definitely take you away from here. I hugged her and giggled. Aunt Zhang also laughed, but as she laughed, tears fell. Song Mingze and Yu Jinting were at loggerheads. During this time, Yu Jinting rarely came back, but every time he did, he would smash a lot of things. The servants at home were quitting one by one. Aunt Zhang would tell me these news. She said that Song Mingze was using every means to unite others to attack the Yu family's business. It was said that Song Mingze was crazily transferring benefits. Those people had long coveted the Yu family's enterprises. They also disapproved of Yu Jinting's behavior of killing his legal wife for his mistress, so they were unceremonious. I asked, doesn't he have friends? Don't his friends help him? Aunt Zhang sighed. His reputation has long been ruined. Who would cooperate with a fool? Reputation is so important. Yes, a good reputation is indeed very important. When a wall is about to collapse, everyone gives it a push. Everyone sees those who are in the wrong. So that was it. Yu Jinting was eager to hold a press conference to prove that the company was operating well, and I quietly followed him to the scene. Crying, I grabbed his clothes and said, "Please don't lock me up at home anymore." I didn't want to be confined at home anymore. I wanted to play with other kids. That day, Yu Jinting was flustered. He struggled to suppress his anger and had someone take me away. I threw myself to the ground, clutching his leg tightly. Don't lock me in that little room. I don't want to be grounded. Countless cameras were aimed at me as I cried, pitiful and innocent. My emotions were genuine and earnest. Yu Jinting's press conference ended abruptly. I learned through the internet that countless people were cursing him online, and countless others were praising me, saying I was beautiful and adorable.
How could a child lie?
Oh, sorry, children can lie too. A man who drove his wife to death for his mistress. How could he be expected to treat his wife's daughter well? Yes, he was truly awful to me. That poor little girl. I really want to hug her. A child without a mother is like grass. Yu Jinting is a beast, rightfully cursed. Thank you. I slept contentedly, waking up in the middle of the night to find Yu Jinting standing by my bed. Yaya, you've regained your memory, haven't you? Do you hate Daddy very much? I quietly stared at him, looking at the words above his head. The male lead that I could always see clearly even in the dark. I noticed it had somehow grown dimmer lately. Well, this world no longer had a female lead, so why would it need a male lead? I turned over and slept peacefully. Later, Yu Jinting started selling off his assets. His reputation online had collapsed, the stock price fell, and he was being targeted by rivals. He had already begun to unload assets. He wanted to save the company. Many people suspected him of abusing me and demanded he let me out. They needed to see me to believe I was safe. But I resolutely refused to go out. If anyone tried to pull me out, Aunt Zhang would protect me fiercely. Then one day, Aunt Zhang disappeared.
Yu Jinting looked at me.
He said softly, "Yaya, you don't want Daddy to go bankrupt, right? How about taking a walk with Daddy?" "Okay," I said, reaching out for him to hold me. There were reporters downstairs. That's when I realized. He gave an interview to salvage his reputation. He carried me down the stairs, giving off a vibe of a domineering dad and his little princess. However, I quietly pricked him with a needle. He looked at me in shock and let go. I fell from his arms, tumbling down the stairs. I screamed and lay on the ground, spitting out a mouthful of blood. "Daddy, don't kill me. I'll do whatever you say." Countless people rushed over and surrounded me, separating him from me. His face bore an expression of grievance, anger, inability to prove himself, and extreme injustice. My body hurt, but my heart felt so good. Finally, I made him taste the feeling of being unable to defend himself. I was sent to the hospital. When I woke up, Fu Zhengshan, Aunt Zhang, and the others were gathered around me. They carefully asked how I felt. I opened my mouth, but it hurt too much to speak. Aunt Zhang cried and cursed Yu Jinting as a beast. I smiled and said, "Hom. Scold me more, I like hearing it." Fu Zhengshan said he would make Yu Jinting pay a heavy price. Later, I learned that he also had a hand in the sniper campaign against the Yu family, and he and Song Mingze had exhausted their resources. Finally brought down Yu Jinting. He paid a heavy price, but Song Mingze paid an even higher one and now faces bankruptcy. Online, everyone is cursing Yu Jinting.
They all feel sorry for me.
From the way he holds a child, you can tell he's never taken care of one. How can scum like him earn so much money? If I ever let him earn another cent from me, it'll be my fault. Boycott the Yu family, boycott this trash. Yu Jinting and the Yu family's reputation were completely ruined. Later, I saw Yu Jinting on the news. He was detained because Song Mingze led a group of people into the Yu mansion and found an Xian languishing in the basement. That day, it was live-streamed from start to finish. An Xian had been tortured beyond recognition in the basement, which sparked nationwide outrage. Yu Jinting was arrested for illegal detention, and the footage of his arrest was replayed repeatedly across various platforms. He looked utterly dejected, like a dog with its tail between its legs. I saw the words, male lead, above his head completely disappear. Yu Jinting didn't let Song Mingze off either. After he went to prison, he quickly submitted evidence of Song Mingze embezzling company assets. Song Mingze also ended up in prison. The most despairing was an Xian. While still in her hospital bed, she eagerly started a live stream to craft a pitiful image of herself as a victim. However, an anonymous tip-off exposed everything about her staging her own kidnapping and framing Song Wanqing. Everyone was shocked, marveling at how melodramatic love among the wealthy can be. Art imitates life. But it's far more melodramatic than life itself. Seeing such absurd plot twists, I knew it was real, a story that couldn't even be made up. I feel it's good to be an ordinary person. It's just that poor little girl, her mother was killed by the mistress, and her father is in prison. How will she live in the future? Yeah, how am I going to live? Now I have no parents, only a grandmother. But on the day she learned that Yu Jinting went to prison, she had a stroke. Now she's partially paralyzed in bed, with no one to care for her, so she has to be sent to a nursing home. Aunt Zhang wanted to adopt me, but she wasn't married, so she didn't meet the adoption requirements. Fu Zhengxin also wanted to adopt me, for my sake. He had already found a girl willing to enter into a fake marriage with him. To convince me, he specially brought that girl and Fu Huai along. The girl was very nice. She seemed like a romantic, very emotional person. She said softly, "Don't worry, Mr. Fu gave me money. Once the adoption procedures are complete, I will divorce him and go abroad. I will take good care of you. I swear on my future fortune, this vow must be sincere." She was so cute. However, I smiled and said, "Thank you, but I want to go to the orphanage." She was astonished.
Why?
I shook my head, but my gaze turned to Fu Huai. Fu Huai gave me a cold look, then lowered his head and kicked to the ground idly. He muttered sullenly, "I agree to adopt you. From now on, I'll treat you like my own sister." What I feared was his agreement. He didn't know. Faintly above his head, the words male lead appeared. If I agree, then the words male lead might become a reality. I think there must be words above my head too. Am I the female lead or the villainess? I've read so many CEO romance novels. I can almost imagine the future plot. If I'm really adopted by Fu Jingxin, then I'd be snatching away the little fatherly love Fu Huai has. Over time, he will hate me, and I will feel indebted. Maybe when we grow up, this indebtedness will turn into love. If he likes me, he'll have to fight against his own hatred. If he doesn't like me, maybe he'll morally blackmail me, making me compensate him. That would just be another story of tormenting the female lead. Pretty boring. I don't want to be anyone's female lead, nor a villainess. I just want an ordinary life that belongs to Yu Pinlan. It may not be as dazzling as being the female lead, but I live for myself and shine for myself. I won't get trapped in difficulties for anyone. I only fight for myself. I said softly, "No, thank you, Uncle Fu. But I don't need it. My mother doesn't like to owe anyone anything." I didn't like it either. I placed my hand in the welfare home director's. Fu Huai stared blankly at me. "Yaya." The word male lead above his head disappeared. I smiled at him sincerely, waved goodbye to him, stepping into my brand new future. Later on, I grew up quietly in the welfare home, and Aunt Zhang often came to visit me. The words devoted second male lead above Fu Jingxin's had also disappeared. He became an ordinary businessman. At first, he still had the means to donate money to the orphanage, but later he was swallowed up by the ever-changing tides of commerce and began to live a belt-tightening life. Yu Jinting committed suicide in prison. Before his death, he became obsessive and repetitive, often saying, "The plot isn't supposed to be like this. It shouldn't be like this. I should have chased her back. We would have lived happily together. Yaya would have grown up joyful. We would have had a second child, and we would have grown old together. How could she die? She is the female lead. How could she die?" After muttering for a long time, He strangled himself in his prison bed using strips torn from his bedsheet. The forensic examiner said he was determined to die because if he had only been willing to stand up, he could have lived, but he stubbornly had no intention of getting up. His death was quiet, known only to a few familiar people. Everyone was afraid of making me sad. But I just listened like it was a stranger's story and let it go. Perhaps he too had awakened, but it was too late. And besides, who says the female lead has to follow the plot? The female lead is a human being, first a human being, then the female lead, a wife, a daughter, a mother. I found the video of my mother jumping off the building back then online. I watched it over and over, wanting to make out what my mother said to me at the end. Later, I learned some lip reading from the teacher who taught sign language to the deaf in the welfare home, and then I finally saw clearly that my dear mother said, "Mommy's little darling, Mommy is breaking free from the plot. You have to work hard too." At that moment, I was flooded with tears, sorrow overwhelming me. I cried uncontrollably. Dear Mom, congratulations on breaking free from the plot, and congratulations to me too, for breaking free from the plot. We will both have a brand new life belonging to ordinary people. It may not be dazzling, but it is a life that strives to flourish upward, right? End of the novel.